Welcome back to Rebuild Mark, the post-Unbound edition. Perhaps we should call it Welcome Back to Rebuild two-time Unbound Gravel 200 finisher instead. And we're going to talk about what an awesome day it was in Kansas. I've been home about a week. I am recovering from not just the ride, but from a little bit of a spill, which we will talk about, and sipping on a great bottle of whiskey, engraved from a good friend, David, who we also saw out there in Kansas, along with his family. So cheers. Let's talk about the race. We had a great time in Kansas. Lots of good friends out there. On the North Course again for the second time in a row. It was a rainy 2 weeks heading into it, and every prediction you could imagine was there. It'll be perfect on race day. It's going to be mud. But here's the short version in case you don't want to hang around for the whole video. It didn't rain a whole lot the last day and a half. The North Course dried out. There were a few pockets of mud. It was not the peanut butter sticky mud. It was the super slick mud, crazy slick mud. Caused a few folks to lose their grip in the mud and crash. But very little of that as far as the mud. The course was hot. It was much hotter that day than I think any of the weather forecasts predicted. My Wahoo had it up in the low 90s at some point. And it was also very windy, and we were heading north into a headwind a lot of the day. And then we had a little bit of off and on, head, cross, tail, and then a little bit of tailwind coming home at that point. Of course, it had died down a bit. But all in all, a great day, no mud slogs. It was a wonderful course. I did come to grief about 170 miles in and crashed at relatively high speed, around 23, 25 miles an hour. Luckily, nothing on me or the bike was too broken to continue. And so after 12 or 15 minutes, I got back on the bike and kept going and finished. We'll talk about that as we go through it, but that's the quick recap, ending with my second 200 finish in a row. Extremely excited. Went about 30 minutes quicker. I did have that outside goal of beating the sun. That was not to be, but that's okay. It was still a great day, and I still ended up about 30 minutes quicker than last year on the same course. So 30 minutes quicker with headwind, with extra heat, with a crash. I'll take it. The most exciting part this year was all the friends that I had there. So my friend Tom, who got me into cycling in the first place, he and his wife came out. His wife Sabrina and my wife Melissa were our support crew. We had my friend Mark from here locally around Boulder that did the 100. He and his wife were out there as well. David, my friend David Guth, I met last year via Rebuild Mark and meeting out at the fairgrounds. He was there with his family. We got to hang out with him. My cousin Al was there. This has become our family thing after not hanging out for a decade or so. This is now our thing. We meet in Kansas every summer. And it was just a good day. And we had fun, maybe too much fun leading into it. Generally, when I get there or to any event, when I'm on my own, I take it pretty easy. I'm kind of quiet. This time with all the friends, we ate food out a lot. We ate beer, drank beers, had a good time, rode Thursday. I rode Thursday for about an hour, rode 2 times on Friday, getting a feel for the course and getting everything shaken out. So maybe that was too much. I don't know. Didn't have great legs, but at the end of the day, finished the race. It was a lot of fun having all the friends out there and seeing people. I saw other people from my hometown that were at that race, and it was really fun. Emporia, once again, did not disappoint. And the course, just a beautiful course for spending a day on a bike. Let's run through the gear that I used this time around. Most of it's pretty familiar from last year, starting with the bike. I rode the same Specialized S-Works Diverge STR that I rode in 2024 and that I'd continued to ride all through the season and getting ready for 2025. I didn't change a thing in the setup. I put new tires on, new Pathfinder Pro 700 by 47 tires. They were brilliant. I ran 26 PSI up front, 28 in the back. That's 2 PSI in both cases higher than I'd been running around here. I don't know what made me choose that, but after the first shakeout ride or two, it just felt like it just didn't seem as chunky as it had in the past. And so I went just a touch higher. So 26 up front, 28 in the rear, not a single tire problem all day, no flats, no cuts, no nothing. They did great. The bike itself is awesome. This is a bike that I feel like is tailor-made for a really rough course like Unbound. So you've got the future shock up front, the future shock in the back. I will tell you, last year I ran the rear future shock wide open with as much travel as it had. This year I didn't do that. I don't know that it's because I'm a little bit lighter and the one wide open just feels different, but I ran it most of the day when I had it on, which was probably only half the time, in the center position. And it was certainly a welcome bit of comfort back there. Specialized saddle was excellent as usual. The Zee Cages were great. If you ride that course out there, you see bottles strewn everywhere. And sometimes you drop them while you're putting them in, but there's a lot of bottle ejections along the way. If you have a problem with that, I recommend these Specialized Zee Cages. I don't know what you'd have to hit to come out. Even in the crash I mentioned, which happened at speed and flung the bike all over the place, the bottles were still in the cages at the end of that crash. So I recommend those if you have need for bottle cages that don't eject bottles. The Wahoo computer did great again. In fact, this year it was even better. Last year I had a problem with cues not lining up at the turns, and I had to watch the map a lot. And this year, for the first part of the course, and then later for just a brief time, I wasn't getting turn-by-turn directions. I guess that might be a connectivity thing. But the rest of the time, spot on, every turn was there, and I still had 36 or 37% battery life when I was done with the event. So anytime you can ride for 15 plus hours on one charge with a GPS unit that has got a 200-mile route going that it's having to keep track of, it's connected to the gearing so that I can see what gear I'm in. It's got a heart rate monitor going and a few other things, and it still has a third of its battery life at the end of almost 16 hours. That's a pretty good deal. Again, same bike as last year, which means the same drivetrain, same mullet setup. I run a 38-tooth chainring up front and a 1050 SRAM Eagle cassette in the back. I did put a new chain on this year, and I actually finally bought the little tool that lets you set the B-spring adjustment, and that made a huge difference in the shifting just versus my eyeball trying to do it. So it shifted great all day. I did end up having to lube the chain at the first checkpoint. It was very dry and dusty, and that was getting into it and affecting the shifting a bit. So I ended up lubing the chain up at both checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. Other than that, it was perfect all day long. I probably spent, I'd say 50% of the time on the hoods, probably 25% or 30% on the tops, and the rest of the time in the drops. So I got the bar height about right. I thought about lowering it, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. I had lots of options for hand placement. And the Slica bar tape that I put on right towards the end of training was brilliant. And as another shout out to Slica, also tough because, again, the bike was flipping all over the place for a while before it came to rest in the crash, and there's not even a nick on that bar tape. And it is comfy and soft, and even when my hands were wet and I would wash my handlebars off, it was still grippy, and I don't wear gloves, and so that means a lot. I did change up my storage choices for race day this year. Last year I ran a Slica handlebar bag. I had this Revel 8 top tube bag. I have, of course, the SWAT container in the frame for things I hope I don't need during the event. And I also have the Camelbak. And conventional wisdom is get things off your back. But this year I thought I'm carrying too much stuff. I'm carrying it in too many different places. And so I consolidated. And essentially what went in the Revel 8 bag was just little bags of the powder, the Tailwind drink mix, endurance fuel, and a little container that's got a little bit of Tylenol and Advil and some Hammer Enduralite capsules, which I ended up using both for me and to share with folks on the course that were coming to grief with cramps. And that's what stayed in there, along with the SRAM rear derailleur battery, which is probably in there somewhere covered in dust. And so that's what stayed there. And then everything else that I might possibly need that was an emergency was here. And so that's extra CO2s, that's a wash rag, that is extra mud cleaning equipment. And in case it was a muddy day, which it was not, thankfully, and additional Dynaplug refills and things like that that I might possibly need. I didn't mind having to take it off if I needed that. It wouldn't be that big a deal. As you can see, this is the third year I've used the Camelbak Chase vest. I like it a lot. Probably the last year because it took a lot of the damage in the crash, and I'm glad that it was there. I think that, I guess it's possible it could have caused some damage being back there, but I think it didn't do that at all. I think it actually saved me some road rash on the back because it's torn up pretty good. So this will be the last year it gets used. I'll have to get a new one. As I'm touching it here, I remember I also had a power bank in there and the cable that goes with it, just in case I needed to charge the Wahoo or my phone. Didn't have to charge either one of them. So it did another fabulous job. I bought an extra bladder this year, and my support crew / wife, Melissa, was able to make up bottles and a fresh bladder. And so when I'd come into checkpoints, all I had to do was take out the old bottles and the old bladder, swap the new ones in, and I was ready to go. And then she cleaned those bottles up and get them ready for the next checkpoint. That worked great. The crew for hire, if you ever have to use the crew for hire that the race event provides, is awesome. It's a very efficient and well worth the money. I think it's $85. Well worth the money if you don't have your own support. But it does save a ton of time and customizes things a bit for your own particular needs when you have your own support. And I really appreciate my wife, Melissa, and Tom's wife, Sabrina, spending their entire day being our support, because it was awesome. And I really hope that they will come with us next year. We'll move on from the bike and on to the clothing choices, and we'll start down at the feet on the shoes. For the second year in a row, I used a Specialized S-Works Recon shoe. It's just a really good shoe. I bought new footbeds right before the event, and that made a big difference. I was much more comfortable. I did have some hot spots on the toes and just hotness in the feet, but on a hot day like that with 200 miles, I don't know that that's 100% avoidable for me, but comfortable all day long, no sleepy feet, no nothing. And they luckily survived the crash pretty well with only minor scrapes. If you remember, I did have to replace the boas. This one broke the week before the race. Boa's got an awesome lifetime warranty on these. You just let them know they broke and which shoe you use them for, and they send you a new one at no charge. It's super simple to install, and it worked as it should on race day. The jersey was a Specialized, I think this is the SWAT jersey. I really don't remember the model of the jersey. This one has seen its better days. This is what I was wearing when I crashed. As you can see, there are copious holes in the shoulder, and there's corresponding road rash and bandages on right now. It's got the same around the back, and then the same on the back on the other side, although not as much damage and a lot of salt because it was hot out there, and the same cut on the sleeve and up under the arm. I don't know what I caught on the ground to tear my arm like that, but it was pretty good. I have some Endura jerseys, part of their GV500 Reiver line, that I like a lot, but they've gotten a little big and they're also a bit warm, and I knew it could be hot that day. This jersey was a much thinner material. It breathes a little bit better, and I was really happy with it. I also love the zippers. They're the chunkier style zippers that are really easy to move up and down, and I've gotten really accustomed to having a zipper pocket on the back, and this one is a vertical pocket versus a horizontal pocket, and it's got that easy to zip large tooth zipper as well, and I've really enjoyed that, and it kept my wallet safe all day long. So that's the jersey. I won't get to wear this one anymore, but luckily I do have another exact jersey of this that's a large instead of an extra large, which hopefully soon I will fit into and keep wearing. And for the bibs, for this third year in a row, I went with the Endura GV500 Reiver bibs. I like these bibs a lot. The chamois is just right. It's not too thick. It's got good density. It is placed really well for my body shape, so I like that a lot. It's got pockets on the side, which I've never really cared about, but I did carry a plastic spackling tool in case I need to clear some mud in that side pocket. So that's there. My only real complaint with these is that they are a bit warm because the fabric is thick, but that also means I did tear them a little bit in the crash, but just a little bit. That could have been embarrassing if I had to ride another 30 miles after the crash with parts hanging out. I did not have to do that. They are torn enough that I probably won't get to use them anymore, which is a shame because I bought a brand new pair. These were brand new, like 2 weeks before the event, but I'm really happy with them, and I'll go try and find another pair. I did buy 2 pair when I bought these, an extra large and a large. These are the extra large, so hopefully, again, maybe I'll just slide right into those larges and I won't need to go find another pair, but I found it hard to find these. I found these at a local bike shop in Vermont, and I'm really happy with them, so I will try and get another pair and highly recommend them. And now for a helmet. This was a really nice helmet. It's a Limar, I forget the model, the high-end road helmet. I quite like it. It's got this MIPS that's not the bunch of yellow plastic. It's micro MIPS or something. It's the back of the pads have a plastic coating on them, and there's a similar plastic coating on the styrofoam, and those things slide, and that gives you that rotational difference. Super cool feeling, well-vented helmet. I had crashed a couple weeks ago, just a tiny crash when wind blew me off into a little gravel ditch. Barely tapped it, didn't hurt anything, but this did hurt something. So as you can tell, it is quite damaged. The internal structure is completely broken. I had to sit there and push things back in place, the styrofoam back in place, to get going again after the crash. There is blood on the inside because there was blood on my head. So I will tell you that I think this helmet did a really good job, because I'm not sure how you can really experience that in a video, but it was a heck of an impact. And best I can tell, and best the medical team could tell after, and my doctor could tell when I got home, no real damage to it. It doesn't appear as if I was concussed in any way. Probably was. It's hard to imagine hitting your head that hard and not having a little bit of concussion, but never lost consciousness. And as hard as that hit was, the little bit of damage to my head, I think it's amazing. So I will go try and find me another Limar helmet. It did a great job, but it has clearly seen its last days as a helmet. Nutrition is always a big topic before these kind of events. And for the second year in a row, I use Tailwind nutrition just about exclusively. Started with 300 calories or 3 scoops in 26-ounce bottles. The Camelbak Chase vest holds about 2 bottles, so I had 5 bottles worth at the start. From the second checkpoint on, I also went to a system where I had 4 calories worth of bottles and 1 extra bottle of water, because it was very hot out there. So hot that I kind of thought I needed an extra boost of calories. So at the second checkpoint, I texted ahead and Melissa mixed up the bottles at 350 calories per bottle. And then I also hung around a little longer and had a sourdough peanut butter and jelly sandwich, very small, some pickles, a swig of Coke, and then I drank water for a bit to let those calories flush through. But that extra food on a hot day made a difference. But Tailwind was awesome. Again, I had great energy all day long. I didn't have great legs, but I had plenty of energy as far as the legs I had to work with. So I really enjoyed Tailwind. I used a variety of flavors, lemon, grape, and mandarin this year. And I'll keep using it because it worked really well for me. Let's move on to the ride itself. The first hour was fast as usual. I felt pretty good as we got started. Once we got through the neutral rollout, the group started to go. We were a little far back, me, Tom, and my cousin Al. And so I began to pick us through the crowd. So we found some good wheels and spent the first 20 minutes or so picking our way through the crowd, finding the right pace group to ride in. Eventually we found a tandem that was just super strong and making the draft that was very comfortable to sit in. After about 40 minutes, pace was a little hot for me, and so I backed out. Ended up hanging on the back of that group for about another 20 minutes, so about 1 hour and 4 minutes. When we got to the real hills, I couldn't hold that pace comfortably, and so I just slid off the back of that and let it go. So after that, I just settled into my own pace. I found people to ride with when I could. I had a better time on the hills than I did last year. I was faster up most of the hills, not by a lot. So if it was more than 3 or 4 or 5%, I kind of had the same thing I had the year before, where people I was comfortable riding with on the flats and the downhills, I couldn't keep up with on the uphills, but that's okay. I had a good time. Rolled into that first water oasis and only spent, I think it was 1 minute and 24 seconds there. So I filled 1 bottle up just for safety and was out. And that was exciting because that big goal this year was to spend less time stopped. And then kept rolling into checkpoint 1. And at checkpoint 1, it was starting to get quite warm and a little chaotic. That first checkpoint's chaotic, but Melissa had a great parking spot and Sabrina was up at the front pointing me in the right direction. It really worked out well. Got to see my cousin Al there. He got there before I did and left before I did, which he was keen to remind me that he was rolling out before me. And I didn't see him for a bit. And I finished my checkpoint in about 10 or 12 minutes. And so I had about 15 minutes, a little less than 15 minutes total stoppage time after checkpoint 1. So at that point, I was right on track for trying to have 30 minutes of stoppage time all day long. And off I went. Divide Road, the first real unboundy type thing, I guess you get to. It was a mess. It was crazy and, like it always is, chaotic, and I just loved it. There were a few mud sections, but they were insignificant and easy to get around. So a lot of fun there. Coming into the second water oasis, it had been hot for a while. I was getting pretty warm. I didn't realize how warm I was until I stopped. And when I stepped off the bike, I could tell I was losing the battle of maybe calories, but certainly hydration. And so I stayed a little bit longer. A couple of the nice volunteers had cold buckets of water they'd pour on your head. They're always awesome at refilling your bottle. So I refilled that. Also refilled the Camelbak Chase vest because I drank it dry. So I just put plain water in that. So I'd have that to rinse off with and have something different to sip on. But my stomach was great at that point, even with the heat. I felt strong. The calories were moving through just as they should. And I moved on after about 10 minutes, 12 minutes in there, which was kind of a bummer to spend that long, but I think it was a well-spent rest because I felt much better when I got back on the bike and continued on to the second checkpoint. Not long before the second checkpoint, around 104 miles, I think, is Little Egypt Road, which is probably my favorite, one of my favorite sections. It didn't seem quite as blown up as it did last year. Maybe I was just new to it last year, but it's still an awesome road and challenging. The climbs on it are not to be discounted. It's a lot of fun. To me, it's just a hoot. I like the name of the road. I like the feel of the road. I like the way it's ridden and how it's 100+ miles into the race. And I find it quite challenging. And I really like Little Egypt. And there's a creek crossing. I love creek crossings. I think it's a challenge to try and ride through them. It always takes more energy than you think it does to ride through one of those creeks. This year it was probably wasn't too deep. Maybe not even a foot deep. But it splashes up on you. The cold water feels good. But what most people, I guess, if you haven't been there, don't know is you cross the creek, you have to climb up what is a muddy embankment because people have come through there splashing the water around. And it takes a little bit of energy and you think, I'm done. You get back on the gas, only to turn a left corner not far away and see what is probably one of the harder climbs on the course. So it's always kind of comical. I know I felt it was funny when I was struggling last year and got to that and saw that steep climb. I knew it was there this year, so I saved a little bit between the creek and that climb. But it is a little bit comical to watch people's reaction when you think you've done the hard thing and you turn a corner and it turns out one of the hardest things on the course is right in front of you. At this point, at checkpoint 2, it's obvious I'm no longer going to beat the sun. I'd have to get from checkpoint 2 at mile 148 to the finish at 2:02 in 2.5 hours or 2 3/4 hours. And there's just no way I'm going to do that. As I was getting ready to leave, Al rolled in. And so I looked at him and said, man, let's quit this yo-yo thing. Let's just ride in together and enjoy it. And he wanted to confirm that we wouldn't beat the sun, and we did. And so that's what we did. So I hung around a little bit longer while he got his stuff, and we rolled in together from the second checkpoint, headed to the finish, and everything was looking good. We were rolling right along, not pushing too hard, just enjoying the day, knowing that we wouldn't beat the sun, but that we'd certainly go a lot faster than we did last year. And then there was this particular downhill double track, and there's plenty of warnings about these double tracks where there's mud and then the sun bakes it and it bakes these ruts into the road. And that's kind of what I hit. As I was in the left track of a double track and a slower rider ahead, I tried to switch over to the other track and caught one of those ruts and just immediately went down. And it was not pleasant at first. I made all those noises you make when you crash heavy like that at speed. But after a few minutes, I felt pretty good. There were some riders that stopped. One of them clearly must have had some medical training. He was asking all the right questions. It didn't take long before the wind came back. It was certainly knocked out of me. The Jeep crew stopped. They had some water. I washed some gravel out. You can see that. There's this up here. It's all down this side. I'm yellow and purple all over the place. But in that moment, once the shock wore off and I realized that I wasn't significantly broken and the bike wasn't significantly broken. In fact, once I got the jockey wheels out of the cassette, because I think that must be a safety feature, it pushed itself in and ran through the gears. It still shifted great. One of those folks that stopped and straightened the handlebars out, I had to move a shifter out. And then frankly, it didn't really ride or look like anything had happened. And so I decided to keep going, and that's what we did. And we rolled on from there into the finish in the dark, having a good time, having to stop every once in a while and stretch. Because as I told Al, when he said, are you sure you want to ride? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure this is as good as I'm going to feel for the next couple of weeks with the adrenaline going through there. So yeah, I want to keep going as long as I can. Maybe we make it, maybe we don't, but I do want to give it a shot. And it turned out to be not all that uncomfortable to ride in, and we did. And so as we rolled into Emporia, we got to watch the big spotlights, which if you beat the sun, you don't get to see that. So there's an upside. The big spotlights from town for the last 15 miles or so. We rolled through the tunnel. The tunnel's always fun to go through. Then there's that last crazy climb, which if you're fresh is not that bad. It was 200 miles on your legs. That climb up Highlands, not to be discounted either. But we rolled up that around the corner through the finish, and it was exciting. It was super pleasing and rewarding to finish after a tough day in the heat and the wind and the crash. And I was excited to get there and finish for the second year in a row. The family reunion continues with me and Al, and that's now, we've both been there 3 times. We both finished twice. He certainly would have finished in 2023. He got through the mud and the hard part, only to be undone by a broken crank arm, which I've got an interview coming with Al later. We'll talk through that whole thing, but his crank arm broke off. He tried to ride one-legged for 10 or 15 miles and just couldn't finish, but he would have. So he would be ahead in the family competition, which is not really a competition. But for now, he won the first year because we didn't finish, but he went a lot further. I got there first last year, and we finished together this year in a coordinated draw. He probably could have left me, but he was an awesome cousin and didn't leave me, and I really appreciate that. And then we finished, and Melissa got to see the description of the crash, because all I did was text her and say, hey, I had a little crash. We'll need some bandages. And then she got to see the reality of it, which is a little bit bloody, but not so bad. And then we got a little food and finished things up that night. And I don't know, it was very exciting. I had to spend time in the shower doing the scrubbing the wounds out thing, which is no fun, but has to be done. And we got up the next morning, went and had breakfast at the commercial diner. If you ever get to Emporia, I think I love meat and 3 kind of diner type places, and the commercial diner is certainly a good one. Don't pass that up. We got to do a lot of fun things this time around. We had beers at Mulready's and snacks at the food truck at the back of Mulready's, and we went to Bobby D's barbecue, and I recommend all those things. So it was a good year. I was thinking as we were wrapping things up that maybe we shouldn't keep going to Emporia. It's such a big commitment, and there's other events we could do and have a good time at. But by the time we were in the car coming home Sunday, I was already thinking about next year and looking at hotels. So I just think Emporia is my thing now. I like going. It's fun. I'll never be one of the fast people, but I still have room for improvement. I still want to beat the sun. I still think I can beat the sun, but we'll keep trying this year. I want to thank also my coach, Kristen Legan, who was 3rd place in the XL this year. But by the time I got to the finish line, all cleaned up in there, waiting for her athletes to come through, which I thought was amazing because she didn't look like she'd ridden 350 miles, but she had. So I want to thank her for being there. I want to thank Melissa for being my support, and Sabrina, Tom's wife, for helping out with that as well. And all the friends that got together and followed along this year. I couldn't wait to do it this year, and I probably can't wait to do it next year. And so we will continue to rebuild Mark in some different events, but we'll certainly be back in Emporia next year. Hopefully the lottery is kind to me.